Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So nice to meet you all. I'm with the HBAR Foundation, and my role is to grow the ecosystem in fintech and payment space for the HBAR Layer 1 protocol. And today, my task is to cover stablecoins and asset tokenization in 15 minutes. So it is ambitious. I will try to be relatively quick. So let me just share my screen. And unfortunately, I'm not here in person, so I will use this beautiful picture of Palau instead. There we go. Hopefully, you can all see my screen. So jumping right in, so starting with a very short history of stablecoins, really, because the first stablecoins were issued in 2014. And the early experiments were often using collateralization by cryptocurrencies, which were not stable, and then relying on stabilization mechanisms such as algorithms. A lot of these early iterations didn't go too well. So you had the pioneers like Newbits, and then more recently you had the Terra Luna that didn't go so well either. Even some more of the high-profile projects like DM, which were following a more conservative approach to collateralization, where eventually discontinued. But some stablecoins have stood the test of time, and the ones that did, they were typically using fiat or equivalents as collateral. And today, the picture is not very diverse. I have to say about 95% of the total market cap for the top 10 stablecoins are USD denominated and backed by fiat or USD-based financial instruments. And the top two by far are USDT for Tether and USDC for Circle. But that's something that will change, and I will go over that in the next slides. We will have more diversity going forward. So the early use cases are mainly very crypto focused. So things like crypto trading, supporting the use of DeFi protocols, supporting the use of some P2P payment use cases. That's also changing. And what we can see in this next phase of growth is that stablecoins are growing out of their crypto niche into traditional finance, where they have a potential role to solve some of the real world problems. There are a few drivers for that change. First of all, regulations are making it possible. There's a number of digital asset-friendly jurisdictions that are now coming up with frameworks to regulate stablecoins. Europe was one of the earlier ones with the MiCA. And then more recently, maybe as recently as a couple of weeks ago, Singapore finalized their stablecoin regulation, and you also have like Emirates, Japan, and a few other digital asset-friendly jurisdictions coming up with frameworks for that. And we see that the issuers are also changing. Earlier on, there were a lot of maybe more DeFi protocols and pure play fintechs issuing stablecoins. Now we're going kind of up the food chain into financial institutions and even major fintech players that are driving stablecoin issuance. So the latest example would be PayPal, which recently announced the PYUSD. That made quite a splash in the stablecoin world. And so now stablecoins are being increasingly equipped to tackle problems with sizable real world addressable markets. So the first one, and I'm going to cover all of these with examples. The first one is FX and cross-border payments or remittance. That alone is a $190 trillion market. If you compare that to the current market cap for the stable coins, which is around about 120 billion, that's several orders of magnitude more. Second is payments. So as you're probably aware, merchants have to give up some of their margin to finance the payment networks. So stable coins, they will also facilitate retail payments. But only if they can allow real-time payments, so atomic settlements, and if they can allow low fees. And Hedera can manage both of these aspects. And third is the tokenization of capital markets. So stablecoins will be needed to bring capital markets on chain. So expect this to be a key driver of their growth in market cap. So starting with cross-border remittance, you're probably all very aware of the existing pain points. This is just an example of Thai baht versus Indonesia rupee transaction. And, even though this is a transaction that's happening within Asia, it's going through 3 different time zone changes from Thailand to the US, back to Indonesia, 6 different institutions, 4.3% in transaction fees, and it takes days to settle. So as you can see, there's definitely room for improvement there. Here's an alternative with stablecoins. So this was a pilot that was done recently on Hedera with 3 financial institutions, Shinhan Bank in Korea, SCB TechX in Thailand, and the largest bank in Taiwan. I'm not going to have time to go into the details of this architecture, but essentially it leveraged smart contracts as well as Hedera native stablecoins, and the results were quite stunning. You can have a system that's operational 24/7, transactions that takes about 2.5 seconds, and the transaction costs for the network are only 5 cents. So there's definitely margin for that for the banks to add their own business model if they want to. Second use case, of course, payments. Definitely some pain points there because payment networks are not cheap. Your average credit card network is charging from 1.5 to 3% on average. But not only that, there is fixed fees. The fixed fees amount to 15 to 20 cents. And so that's making micropayments impossible, essentially. If you want to send a 5 cents payment, then your fee is going to be more than that. One of the examples that we have to show how to address this issue is Drop. Drop is also Hedera-based micropayment platform for small value purchases. And they use also USDC, Hedera native USDC. They have SDKs, so you can deploy very easily. It's almost as easily as a Stripe, for example, through a WordPress or a Shopify merchant site. And you can see how the transaction fees compare. It's, in some cases, it's 10 to 20x cheaper. And the third use case is the tokenization of capital markets. This is something that is still not on the radar of a lot of people. It's still relatively small market cap here, but we're estimating, not me, but BCG is estimating that by 2030, the total market cap for tokenized assets is going to be 68 trillion. So essentially, we're seeing the existing capital markets being uploaded and being decentralized on the blockchain. And just like stablecoins were very essential to crypto trading, they will be essential to those decentralized capital marketplaces. So that's my segue into asset tokenization. Where are we at in 2023? We're actually a bit earlier even than stablecoins. It's already very early for stablecoins, but it's even earlier for asset tokenization. But we're seeing some very strong signals already. Now the market cap of tokenized assets is around 90 billion, and only 20 billion of that is in the secondary market. And that's because a lot of these has been dominated by proof of concepts, but these proof of concepts are not maturing to commercial grade products, and so we can expect the secondary market to increase in volume. The leading use cases for asset tokenizations currently is bonds, equities, and real estate. Those are the largest numbers of use cases. The regulatory landscape is quite fragmented. It's even more difficult to regulate tokenized assets than to regulate stablecoins, and that's why it's taking time to come together. If you look at the old world, so typically Western countries, US, Europe, there's usually no dedicated treatments. In the US, it's following the existing SEC rules. In most of Europe, it's following MiFID, but there are a couple countries within Europe that have their own digital asset regime. places like Switzerland and Luxembourg. In the rest of the world, notably, there are a few jurisdictions that are very progressive. For example, the UAE have multiple regimes depending on the tax-free zone. Hong Kong as well as Singapore, they clearly lay out how security laws apply and what kind of licenses are necessary. So we expect these jurisdictions to be kind of driving force for asset tokenization. I'm going to spend a few more minutes covering asset tokenization examples on Hedera. But first, before I get into that, I want to cover a little bit of some of the differentiators of why some of these projects and institutions have chosen to work on Hedera. Hedera is a third generation public ledger. It's high throughput, and you really need high throughput for things, for example, like payments or high frequency trading. So 10,000 is the transaction number of maximum transaction per seconds. It's on par with some payment networks. The average fee is very low. It's 0.0001, and it's also pegged to the USD. So even though it's payable in crypto, you can budget very easily. Typical transaction takes 3 to 5 seconds to finalize. And the carbon footprint itself is extremely low. Actually, there was a comparison that was done between the more well-known proof of stake chains as well as Bitcoin for reference. You can see Hedera is orders of magnitude more energy efficient, since it is the watt hour per transaction, and even more energy efficient, about 70 times more energy efficient than a centralized network like Visa. So for that reason, we've become the layer one of choice for a number of green projects. And actually want to give a shout out to Carbon-Base, Stella Jo, who's going to be in later in this session in one of the panels, so she can discuss some of that. So a governance model is also quite unique. These are the companies that are the 29 companies that are running the network and also making the decisions for the network. You will notice some pretty well-known names like Google or IBM, as well as some financial institutions like Shinhan Bank, Standard Bank, Nomura, Aberdeen. Overall, this provides a lot of reassurance, especially for the enterprise sector, and a lot of transparency. Hedera has actually made some design choices pretty early on to make sure that it has compliance-friendly features. So here is an example of some of the admin keys that you can issue when you're issuing tokens. You can have a supply key, which allows you to change the token supply after initial minting. You can have an admin key, will allow you to wipe out an entire token supply. A freeze key allows you to freeze a specific account. So assuming you have identified an account that is fraudulent, you're able to freeze it. You're also able to wipe the balance off of that account. And you can also, if you hit pause, you can pause transactions for the entire token base across all accounts. And then with the fee schedule, allows you to change the fees after minting. On the left side, you also see royalty fees. How you can fix the royalty fees. That's allowing you to get a cut, for example, on secondary trading very easily without having to do any kind of smart contracts. So these are all native features. And finally, Hedera is also spending a lot of effort and resources into building infrastructure for carbon accounting. At the center of this diagram is the bubbles, is the Guardian. This is the tokenization engine for carbon accounting. So you can take in methodologies like Vera or Gold Standard. You could take in data from IoT devices, and there could be very high throughput information. And that goes into the Guardian, and that allows you to mint carbon credits, renewable energy credits, etc. That can be used for not only carbon markets, but also conservancy, green bonds, ESG accounting, and a number of use cases. We're also working on building the automated market maker for this, so we'll have the entire infrastructure necessary for carbon accounting. And just want to close maybe a couple minutes on use cases, so you have an idea of some of the examples. For asset tokenization, one that's quite interesting is diamond tokenization. This is typically a very illiquid asset, a $1.2 trillion market, so definitely a not negligible one. And next, we have an example of a money market fund being tokenized. So this is with Aberdeen and a marketplace called Archax. They tokenized a part of the £15 billion money market fund. Of course, real estate is a very well-known use case. So working with the Red Swan, the commercial real estate marketplace, one of the pioneers in CRE tokenization. Then now we're platforming on Hedera. Also working with Arcadia, which is building a white label tokenization platform on Hedera, starting with real estate, but also looking into other types of assets, such as commodities and ESG assets. All right. Now going on to more green assets. We're working also with Evercity on the green debt and the carbon origination. This is one of the many dozens of ESG related startups that we work with. So definitely not all of it. This is just a small slice. With this, I invite you to get in touch if you're interested in stablecoins or asset tokenizations and ESG and all these types of things. Feel free to reach me. Is my email as well as my LinkedIn, and then the HBARfoundation.org or hedera.com if you want more information about the technology itself. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, Sabrina, for this thorough introduction about what HBAR Foundation had for assets tokenizations and stablecoin projects. In the interest of time, then Sabrina will regret to ask people to email you and reach out to you on Twitter if they have questions. Thank you for staying with us and sharing with us about all the amazing things you have done in this sector.